Welcome. It's such a pleasure to see a packed room here for such a beautiful event. It is such a great honor to give the Roger Baldwin Award to the Maines family. Roger Baldwin was the founder of the ACLU. He was an organizer, he was an activist, he believed profoundly in speaking out and speaking up. And each year we present the Roger Baldwin Award at our annual meeting to Mainers, Maine citizens who demonstrate extraordinary civil rights and civil liberties advocacy. And I actually didn't meet the Maines family, although I had certainly heard about how awesome they were until this spring. In January of this year, the Republican legislature brought forward a transgender discrimination bill that would have given businesses the right to make inquiries to people about their gender identity and to make decisions about who could or couldn't use public facilities. And we thought that that was wrong. And in January, the coalition that came together, the ACLU of Maine, Equality Maine, Maine Women's Lobby, GLAAD, we were concerned. We were concerned that it would be very difficult in the current political environment to stop this legislation. We, the coalition, held a series of meetings with Maine's transgender community and community of allies across the state and had a conversation about strategies. And it soon became apparent that we would need transgender Mainers everywhere to come forward and tell their stories. And Wayne came to the first meeting. That's where I first met him. And Wayne, don't mess with Wayne. He's an expert marksman. And I was just so impressed with him. And then he came to the public hearing and testified about his story. And he'll tell you some of that tonight. And then we still were concerned that we were not going to have the votes to defeat this legislation in the Judiciary Committee. And so Wayne and his daughter, Nicole, came to Augusta to meet with the Judiciary Committee. They met with the entire group of Democrats on the Judiciary Committee member, and then they cornered Republican Judiciary Committee members in the hallway to say, hi, I'd like to introduce ourselves and talk about this bill. They started telling their story over and over and over again. So we went in the committee. But then we found out we didn't have the votes to win on the Senate side. So we had to go to the House, and we had no idea what the 151 House members would do. So Wayne and his daughter, Nicole, said, okay, we'll take time off of work, time off of school. And they came to Augusta, and they were there every day lobbying legislators. Now, in Augusta, in the State House, for those of you who've been there, you know it's not a matter of setting up appointments and going to people's offices and having these meetings. It's tugging people in the arm in the hallway and saying, can I talk to you? It's sitting in the cafeteria and waiting for people to come by and grabbing them and asking them to sit down. And to hear and watch Wayne and Nicole do this. I mean, when I was 14, I was very assertive. I was in all sorts of clubs, but I don't know that I could have talked to legislator over legislator time and time again to talk about myself and to talk about discrimination as eloquently as Nicole did. And some of those legislators were not receptive. Some of them were not always willing to listen or willing to have the conversation at first. And that didn't stop Wayne or Nicole. So it was just a really, really beautiful thing for me to watch. It's very rare that community members take the time to be in Augusta every day doing that lobbying. It was incredibly, incredibly powerful. Additionally, the press were very interested in the story, but they were covering it in a traditionally political way, he said, she said type of thing. And Susan Sharon of Maine Public Radio said, I'd like to cover it a little bit differently. And she went and talked to the family, and Jonas, who we're also honoring tonight, said some really remarkably profound and beautiful words about his family. And that piece ran the night before the House vote. And we heard people tell us the next day that they had heard the story on Maine Public Radio. that they had heard Jonas and Nicole talking about their lives. So again, speaking out mattered in that moment. And then there's Kelly, and Jody Nossinger, who's on our board and has represented this family also before the Human Rights Commission and through litigation, is going to talk a little bit about that. But Kelly, as their mom, has first moved Jonas and Nicole to Portland and has been a steadfast advocate for her family, fighting for her family, and fighting for Mainers everywhere. So I'm going to play the Maine Public Radio story. Then I'm going to introduce Jody, who's known and worked with the family for quite a while now, still working in depositions these last 2 weeks to present the award. But first, I'd like you to listen to this Maine Public Radio piece, because I think it captures what happened last spring.